Do you like Darlington? Do you like the challenge of racetracks? Do you like the challenge of being at Darlington as a racetrack? Well, all of those concepts will be answered here tonight, as tonight Blazing Petals is set to go for a 175 lapper for the place they call Too Tough to Tame here on Green Flag TV. I'm Justin Prince on Phil, and tonight is Ron Mons with Dustin Owens as the producer for this evening's coverage as we get ready for tonight's festivities here from Darlington. Tonight's going to be an interesting one, to say the least, for our competitors as these drivers get ready for what is the third of 4 straight races of events in a row on these weekends before multiple off weeks come into play during the month of May, whether it's for Mother's Day or Memorial Day. But it's still early in the season as a result, Ron, and these drivers looking to score points tonight at one of the more difficult tracks of the calendar.
Yeah, I think the word that we're going to have to talk about, even though we're not at a plate track, is momentum. It's that mental momentum. The drivers have to just keep it rolling in their own brain, realize, okay, we've got some breaks rolling up here, so may as well get some good haul of points before we head off into that slightly disjointed month of May. Here at Darlington, though, if you can get a good result, and especially a victory here, that'll feel really rewarding for these drivers. This track is truly one that can reward the skills of drivers up and down the field through the eras, through the decades, through the types of cars that race here. I think we're in for a good one. Certainly going to be the biggest headache for these drivers in quite some time. But hey, it's us broadcasters. We're always going to enjoy these drivers just struggling a bit.
Yes, indeed. But all this is going to be while Chris Carroll has controlled things in the point standings. 1 win on the season, yes. But he's been one of the more consistent drivers with 4 top 5s in the season. But Tara Butcher-Benjamin's up to second just on raw top 10 ability. Because a lot of drivers, while they may have had speed for a couple races so far, Ron, haven't had speed to be in the top 10 every single time, even with the field sizes. TBB is right now in a good spot right now as a result.
Yeah, this is a bit of a trope. It's something that us broadcasters always beat into the ground, but consistency being key. It's worked out well for Carroll. It's worked out for your top 2 in the points, just trying to break away from the rest of the pack. As you go a little bit farther along, you can see those gaps start to grow just a little bit. Even in the team side of things, just consistency working out just on a slightly larger scale.
Absolutely. Keep in mind the best average was MFRD. You can tell right now, MFRD, as a result, has been able to keep the most consistent effort out of their drivers for the lowest points tally is the best one. Blackhawk Motorsports right now in second, followed by It and Out Esports Group right now in the top 3 for those standings. We've also seen some waves as a way for Team 5 amongst those here today. A lot of good teams looking to try and find some speed here tonight, and it's going to be definitely a challenge here for this evening. I'd like to remind you that tonight's action is brought to you in part by Ohio and Indiana Roofing, a premier roofing contractor. They're a sister company to the Bruns Construction Enterprise, specializing in commercial and industrial roofing. They're committed to accommodating the unique needs of each client and offer creative solutions to meet those needs. They also have a team of individuals who work for the same common goals: professionalism, quality, and service. Services offered include preventative maintenance, re-roof new construction, infrared scanner, green roof solutions, metal, retrofit, emergency repair services, and more. Please visit oiroofing.com for more information. So with that in mind, these drivers are currently getting into the south set to go. We have less than 5 minutes to go in qualifying tonight, with already about 23 drivers in session. Of note, Justin Levine is one of the competitors who is on the entry list here tonight. One of the winning drivers that dominated for parts of last season before fading from the championship fight with attendance. Going to be interesting to watch for him tonight. Brian Zimmerman looking to try and put up his first qualifying lap here in the 28. We'll start things off on lap number 1 with a 30.4. The pole right now is Dalton Kilroe's 30.0.
Yeah, and look at that gap between your front row. Kilroe only 5 thousandths of a second in front of Caleb Ellswick. Keeping an eye on the margins throughout the field, though. That just kind of rings true for the entire pack. Outside of a couple outliers that are a bit farther back in pace, you could just see small incremental gaps between these drivers. Let's see what Zimmerman can do as he heads his way across the stripe. Lap time number 2, currently slotted 12th at the moment. Will we see a jump up from him?
Yes, indeed. P10 is going to be where it steadies out. You see the left of the throttle. Mark Arthur, for his sake, looking to try and get on the board. Qualifying is going to be a challenge for some. He starts off with the 2s after all. That's going to put him up into a decent spot already. But the main thing I've noticed for some of the drivers in particular is in final practice, A couple competitors can hit a 29.9. Not anyone has reached that mark yet with the way the track conditions are a little bit hotter than practice.
Yeah, just a little bit tougher out there for these drivers to get a grips to this circuit here in qualifying, but there is a lot of importance to run here. This is, let's look at that. Mark Arthur jumping up to the pole right as we were talking about drivers not breaking into that 29-second barrier. There we go. Arthur playing us like a fiddle.
Indeed, Ty Marasco able to get to P2 in the qualifying session. Tara Butcher Benjamin, never mind, just took that away. I think the thing is, I'm curious on this. Butcher Benjamin did something I've never seen before for Darlington qualifying. He actually cut part of the apron on the front stretch.
So an odd idea there. I guess, I mean, it worked out well, qualified second. Let's take a look at this replay here. I'm intrigued exactly how he cut this, no pun intended.
You can see it going really low. I've never seen anyone intentionally go down there before. It actually worked for speed, and it's one of his best qualifying runs of the season.
So how about them apples? Just keeping the momentum rolling on the exit of the turn works out well for a P2. May not be so sustainable in the race, but getting back to that, I was going to talk about how important it is to get a good qualifying time here at Darlington. You don't want to be in the mid-pack at the start of this race. Track conditions notwithstanding, although they certainly aren't ideal for these race trucks either. If you're in the mid-pack heading off on a 1 and 2 at the start of this race, you should probably check whether you have a life insurance policy before that green flag drops.
It's absolutely here for some of these drivers. For the most part, it looks like qualifying solidified. Joseph Kazi is also an interesting one entered tonight. That's someone that we've seen under the Ryko banner previously in some setup side arrangements. Usually it's pretty fast. Haven't seen him in this series, though, as of late, in the 8 truck. So a few different competitors making some of their first starts, if not their first as a result start of the season here tonight. We'll find out how things go. We are about 30 seconds away from the qualifying end of session. Your thoughts right now on this field as we get ready to go with 19 who set up times?
Well, super competitive. Darlington, it's a track that these drivers either love or absolutely despise, kind of like Marmite in the NASCAR world, both a very close field in qualifying and a race that I'm sure is going to be super competitive. I think this could be one where drivers who want to try and win this race just need to weather the storm. You know, the saying to finish first, you have to finish, I think is really going to have to ring true tonight. These drivers just have to stay with it, keep their nose clean, and if they can do that, they're probably going to inherit a very good position come time for the end of this.
Yeah, so as a result, qualifying comes to a close. Again, tonight's pole award is brought to you by Shortstop. For over 20 years, they've been serving Northridge's favorite pizzas, subs, and more. Their family-owned restaurant takes pride in creating delicious meals and bringing people together. So, who's on that pole tonight? Well, it's Mark Arthur. Why not? You can see a 29.978 is that time. Taylor Butcher Benjamin for MFRD alongside 45 1,000 off. Tom Marasco, followed by Dalton Kilroy or Hal Row 2 sorting out tonight. Then you have Ellswick in the field tonight, starting in 5th. Alongside him is Chris Carroll. Then row 4, Dustin Payne and Logan Wilson are amongst your top 8. Rounding up the top 10 tonight, Chris Berg and Nick Crawford.
Then looking outside your top 10, Ronnie Lane going to be starting this race in the number 2 truck in 11th next to Brian Dees in 12th. Row number 7, we'll see Brian Zimmerman line up alongside Larry Bell coming out of Canada in the 43 truck. Trevor Harmon will be in P15 next to William Brunton in 16th place. P17 will be Mike Massengill in the number 20 machine from Blackhawk Motorsports next to Kyle Wellman in the 18th spot. And then rounding out your top 20 here tonight will be Bill Harkins next to Justin Levine.
Then you throw it back to Joseph Kazi, who is one of the drivers who didn't set a time tonight as well. Matthew Kleinsmith is on the grid. Same for Kazi and the Raminator. Then Tom Freitas will start at the back of the field. Freitas should say. In the front row esports machine. 23 on the entry list tonight. It should be a fun night to say the very least. As we get set to go, let's talk about stages. Darlington, It's with this series, short, medium, long. Usually, it's not long, short, like some certain series today. But 26, then up to lap 78, then 97 will be the last length of the stage. So we're talking about short, medium, long on the stretch.
Yeah, so just slowly working up to it, and all these drivers having a different kind of challenge to negotiate with at these stages. May not seem like the greatest change in the world, but for these cars and for these drivers, it is going to be a tough test baking under that South Carolinian sun here to get this race up and rolling. Taking a look at those track temperatures once again, ambient pretty all right, 74 Fahrenheit. That's right at the point where I start to sweat a teeny tiny bit, especially with that 67% humidity. Gen Alpha's going to have a field day with that one. 113 degrees Fahrenheit for the track temp. That's going to be pretty rough for these tires, especially here at Darlington. It's kind of funny that the back stretch is named after Goodyear, which, yeah, it's kind of telling considering it will be a sea of rubber being let down on this track and a sea of marbles away from the racing surface because these tires are going to be killed.
Absolutely, this is going to be an interesting one. Who do you think is going to come away with the win based on your experiences with some of these drivers?
You know, only my second time covering this series. I think our pole man may have the best shot to do it, especially of our front row. I'm still way to be convinced by the pace of that number 10 truck, so I think Mark's probably going to have my eye.
Happy to have you with us here on Green Flag for tonight's coverage of Blazing Pedals. It's Arthur, it's Butcher Benjamin. Green Flag is out, we're underway. Ellswick on the apron all of a sudden, letting several drivers go. We have a crash at the back of the field. Hard slam. Mike Massengill has knocked the fenders out. No caution. We stay green.
Yeah, that's a worry about being stuck there in the back of the pack, in the mid-pack of this field. You're going to run into trouble like that. Good start, though. Fantastic start from your pole man. It's a 10 dropping down.
Hearing connection issues also coming up, so all of a sudden, absolutely wild start for a couple of these drivers here in the early running. So all of this is going to make for a crazy beginning, to say the very least. Arthur, as a result, is already pulled away by near 0.8 of a second. Now we have trucks phasing into each other. Butcher Benjamin, Spooks massing out Marasco. We nearly had it our pileup.
Yeah, and that's a worry about that 10 truck getting abducted by a UFO like he did. Once he got spat back out there on the racetrack, you know it was going to be troublesome. I thought he was completely done there, but no, he is not. He's still out there on the racetrack trying to hold on to it. I think his hamster that was running on the wheel inside of his Wi-Fi modem has finally kicked into hyperdrive.
Let's take a look at what happened to Massengill. Well, he's all right on the apron. That's not a good start.
Not at all. And, oh, yeah, that's a problem with running on a short line like that. That was a bad hit into that wall. Just caught the end of that safer barrier. Oh!
A lot of people getting loose. Oh, my goodness. Everybody's having problems all of a sudden. Were you expecting to be this wild to start?
Yeah, I was expecting a little bit of wildness. I was expecting a little bit of chaos. I wasn't expecting awkward hits into the safer barrier and alien abductions, but hey, you learn something new at Darlington every single day. Fast lap for the 10, though, so clearly those aliens must have given that 10 truck a little bit of pace. Mark Arthur, though, still comfortably ahead of the pack, just trying to hold on to it for dear life. It's really everybody throughout the field trying to hold on to something for dear life. Usually they're trucks.
Yeah, pure chaos right now for some of the drivers. Laurie Bell right now amongst those. You see Ellswick trying to just gather himself back up again after his moment to start things off. Right now, pretty quick to start. And by the way, Marasco is already dropping back as you see some of the others like Wilson go up high. Mind you, this is a track where you want to be in a certain groove. Bottom seems to be working per chance in 3 and 4 sometimes. But right now, it's the top that you want, that also carries a lot of speed per Darlington tradition.
Yeah, no, able to rip it up on the high side. I think I mentioned this the last time I was doing a broadcast here on Green Flag TV at Darlington, but the history around this place is fascinating. Those higher grooves with the higher banks were originally just meant to be a runoff area in case a driver overshot it or had some sort of stuck throttle. It wasn't meant to be the original racing surface. It was just meant to be an area for the drivers to slow down. Now, though, everybody's realized, hey, you can go a heck of a lot faster if you run up there. They learned that in the early days of running around this place. It was the first asphalt oval to ever be used in the NASCAR Cup Series, the first ever Southern 500 held here in just the second year of NASCAR competition. Johnny Mance, an IndyCar driver with only one win in the IndyCar side of things, able to get his one and only NASCAR win here way back in the day. Every single time the Southern 500 comes around in the fall, everybody chases that Johnny Mance trophy, a reminder of the odd history surrounding this track.
Yes, indeed. It's been an interesting track as a whole in terms of the product it's produced, though, in recent years as well, because it's become one of those tracks that now with the high horsepower in the real world for the Cup Series, but also with the trucks, it provides a difficult balance per se in terms of how you have to approach this. It's not one of those tracks where you just lift off the throttle and let it roll.
And, you know, an interesting point that you brought up there, JP, talking about the way NASCAR races are today. I actually ran an experiment a few weeks ago. I decided to tune into a NASCAR race without checking social media the entire time, specifically Twitter or X or Fandango, whatever they call it nowadays. And I decided to say, okay, let's see how I enjoy this race without seeing what people are talking about online. I was able to enjoy it 10 times more without having a bunch of people on the internet saying that I was watching a snoozer.
I don't know what to say on that one.
You learn something new every day.
Guess so. By the way, Freitas never came out of the racetrack, and he is amongst the 1 DNSs tonight. Massingill's already out with the tow, we mentioned. So everyone else did make the start here tonight. So it's going to get interesting to see how, in particular, we see some of the drivers like Justin Levine hit the track, I think, because he's only made one start this season. After being the dominant driver for all of last season's regular season, was top 5 at Bristol from the back, and we have someone in the back of the wall. It's Harmon.
Oh, and I think it was the exit of turn number 2 that strikes once again, and you can see now getting it back up and rolling. We remain green, and the drivers continue to battle. That exit of turn 2, it's always the choke point here at Darlington, and I think it may have been the case here, already a little bit sideways. And it wasn't even contact there. I think the 16 eventually, that sideways wiggle off through the turn, it was going to catch up to him eventually. Once that pendulum starts to swing, there's only one way it's going to end, and that's a crash.
So that hard contact brings us into a interesting spot here for a couple of the competitors. Are they going to be able to maintain themselves without spinning out here tonight? They have 4 tire sets here too tonight. There's not necessarily a lot of wiggle room for your tire sets, and this is a track where we're at 65% fuel as well here. You do the math, you're going to have to probably stay on an old set of tires at some point.
Yeah, and forcing a driver's hand into using old tires at Darlington. I made a passing joke about this a little bit earlier on. Us commentators, we enjoy when these drivers suffer, and I think we'll be able to enjoy it once again here tonight. That's going to be a real tough task, just trying to manage that, hold on to those tires for dear life. There's a certain level of tire management you can do here at Darlington. Keep the rear end of that truck somewhat stable, somewhat steady, not get the back end out too much through the turns, and make sure that front end doesn't skid too much either. But again, doing tire management here at Darlington it's almost like putting a Band-Aid on top of an open wound.
Well, you don't want it to gush out at this point in a tight racetrack here as one driver gushes out to the outside of Ronnie Lane from the out to inside. But this seems to be the type of race so far early on in this one that's playing very much into the hands of Mark Arthur as we go. You see some side-by-side, Brian Dees, Chris Carroll with a bit of a swap once again. But right now, it's been pretty clear Mark Arthur's not afraid to burn up his stuff here. He's running half a tenth quicker than everybody else that you see on screen.
Right now, these drivers just looking to settle into their comfort zones. We talk about driver comfort every single time a Darlington race comes around. Everybody looking to feel as easy as they can be in a very uneasy set of circumstances. Track that isn't feeling too hot. Well, it is feeling very hot, which is why the tires aren't feeling too hot out there. As you can see now, the 10 a little bit tripped up there, just not able to get the run that he was looking for. Wall tap into turn number 3 and 4, and that's going to allow Don Kilrow just blow his doors off into the turn.
Yeah, right now you see how much the shuffle's there indeed. Kilrow, one of the drivers we should expect to see in the long run really start to, you know, put the hammer to the pavement, if you will. And right now, Kilrow's season pretty steady now that he's gotten some momentum built up. Has a win now in hand. 3 top 5s of the season for him. Carroll, for reference, top 5 or bust. That's been kind of the way to describe it so far for him. But it's worked for the points lead.
So what would a top 5 finisher's version of checkers or wreckers be? Good points day or bad points day? I guess that would be how it worked. That doesn't have the same ring as checkers or wreckers.
I mean, there's 2 different comparisons you can make. Are we talking Davey Allison type of checkers or wreckers where he does so well in some races, then has the incidents on back, but still was a contender for the championship? Or are you talking about Ryan Newman with multiple race wins, but still 6th in the championship?
You know, that's a very good point that you bring up. There is a little spectrum of drivers that are inconsistent, for lack of a better term, whether that be through, you know, sheer misfortune or otherwise. Good little comparison. A guy like Thomas Scheckter in the other world of IndyCar. That guy was fast on a good day, but he also hit everything but the hot dog cart on some occasions. Look at that slideways moment there from Wilson.
You can see the side-by-side pop up yet again. Again, as time has gone on here on iRacing, a lot more people have used that bottom. What a save by Wilson.
Yeah, that 76 truck looks to be an absolute handful. We saw a moment heading through 2. We see it once again heading off through 4. And now the 74 again tripped up a little bit there as Chris Carroll looking to try and stick his nose into that battle and maybe contend for that spot. I think all these drivers behind that 76 truck smelling a tiny bit of blood in the water. And when you get yourself in a situation like that, for all parties involved, is a nerve-wracking ordeal. The drivers behind, they're waiting for something to go down. Either that 76 truck to completely go around, or just for him to start dropping off like a madman when the side-by-side racing comes around, though. That 76 is going to be about as nervous as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. He's holding on to P5 for now, but every single time I see that car heading out of the turns, just feel very, very uneasy.
Kind of feel that same way. It's just the nature of this race. You got to be able to withstand those wiggles here, especially since this times 2 sun's going to transition to an evening race by the end. We're already at the stretch. We're almost done the stage, by the way. We're coming up to 3 laps to go. Nick Crawford is swatting flies a bit on the outside. Right now, that machine is just trying to hold on. The 74 scrapes the wall, holds back Carroll. By the way,
I was just going to say, I got to wonder who's going to be the first to try and really stick their own in this. It looks like it's going to be Carroll. Crawford getting a little bit squirrely as he headed his way out of 4th. Slight bit of wall contact, and now the side-by-side racing is going to flare up. I think Chris Carroll is probably the most kind of jittery in all of this. He is the one that wants to try and get that moved on the 74, because not only did it feel like the 76 was holding up the 74, it feels like he's being held up by the 74 of Crawford.
See right now, coming to 2 laps to go, how things are going. See Harmon already a lap down. That's from the spin. He is the only person lap down. To the bright side, he'll be the lucky dog and be able to finally fix maybe a little bit of that Team 5 Motorsports truck's damage on it. 2 to go. Some of the others just try to let their trucks crawl. That includes the 51 at Ellswick, who's dropped further and further back. But Arthur is coming up to 1 to go. The 12 has led them all so far. It has a gap of almost 2 seconds.
As he tries to bring it around for one more lap. Arthur It goes back to what I said right before we grabbed the green. I was convinced of his pace when he was able to break into that 29-second barrier. Everybody else just wasn't standing out to be too much in qualifying. Still a lot of racing left to go. That 12 has certainly been the star so far.
Coming up to the green-white checker flag, Mark Arthur putting together a really solid day so far. Leads the first 26. Gets it done here in Blazing Pedals with stage number 1. Followed by Kiro, Butcher Benjamin, Marasco, Wilson. Now what's your top 5? Also amongst the top 10 for reference is Crawford, Carroll, Payne, Dees, and Levine drove 10 spots already. Look at that. He and Kazi are both marching to the field together. I'm not surprised to see both of them doing so. They might be contenders for the win at the very end of this one, but both of them seem to be following each other's gaps that they're opening up to pass by several drivers here.
And, you know, that speaks a lot about the driver comfort for those racers, just to cut their way through the field like a hot knife through butter so far. It has been a challenging start to the race for these drivers. No cautions, at least leading into this one that we're currently under right now. The competitors kept it smooth for the most part. Couple of incidents, though. It was a challenging track. It's still going to be a very challenging track as we go along throughout the night. But to show that it was probably going to be the most hostile conditions for these drivers, that is some real good pace.
So Arthur controlling the field, and now here's the interesting part. Remember what we just talked about with the tire sets and it being very tight, and, you know, the last stage you might run out of tire sets if you go with the normal schedule pit stops. You won't have any bankers for cautions, if you will. Now, let's find out if anybody's going to say, we're going to try and keep the old tires on at Darlington and risk blowouts. We've seen it at tracks like Dover before and a couple other circuits this season. Let's find out if anyone's going to try the wild thing that you normally don't do at Darlington.
Yeah, it's simply going up to these drivers and asking them if they are a gambler or not, because it is one heck of a gamble to try and pull. You're going to have to pull the trigger on that at some point between now and the end. Do you do it now? Do you do it a little bit later? Me personally, I would maybe just hold off. These drivers still looking to settle into their comfort zones out there on the racetrack. Pushing themselves out of that right now may be a bit detrimental come time for the end when you have to be on your best behavior. Let's see what anybody does.
A lot of no tires here. Levine's the first one out. Off and away we go. And just like that, Roddy Lane comes out next, also joining the Millswick. Well, there's a lot of short pit stops in Justin Levine, who apparently is now with Conti, so congratulations to him, I guess. He's now the one who comes out first in the whatnot J-Dot machine.
Yeah, I'm playing me like a fiddle, right? As I was talking about these drivers potentially holding off on the other zero tire call for now. It does also make sense. You know, I was trying to play devil's advocate a little bit, but I can understand why these drivers decided to do it now. Kind of get that paint off early. It's like ripping the Band-Aid off, so to speak.
Yes, indeed. And on that note here, we'll see how things stack up. Remember, this stage is going to actually be pretty long too, per se. You're talking 78 on the length. Start doing the math in your head. The total goes to what, 48? That's going to be a lot of laps you're hoping to stretch it and then possibly have to pitch your ring. Drivers are already getting a warning on the radio, by the way. Let's be careful. Did I mention this track's known for tire spin?
That you have not, but, you know, just add into it. This track, you would be surprised that it's in South Carolina. You'd think that's in Australia, considering the amount of things that are around here waiting to kill.
Like what?
You know, you got the tires, you got the wall. You know, the Darlington stripe. The wall just comes out and bites you like a snake or a spider or any animal down there in Australia.
I mean, it definitely does provide a bit of a punch, if you will. You have to be able to have the bubble wrap like Martinsville. Might have some left over, in fact, from some. There's the tire spin we were expecting, and Roddy Lane's in the wall from it. Roddy Lane is riding the wall from it. Kleinsmith and Several drivers had to stack up from that. Restart violation, Ronnie Lane, as he tried to gas it before Levine 2.
Yeah, so you can see everybody starting to scramble as they head their way down the backstretch. 4-wide racing, and side by side a little bit further up the road, that's Ellswick and Kilroe starting to paddle out for second. Maybe sensing an opportunity once that car up in front starts to fall off a cliff. Here we go.
Here we go for the front. Kilroe is the first driver on tires, and he'll take the lead. Next up on tires, Mark Arthur. Arthur lost ground with the chaos already. Arthur's going to have to dig pretty fast because the 41's already built up a gap of half of what the lead was for Arthur in 20-plus laps. Looks like, here we go, Ronnie Lane serving his penalty, by the way, as we go about here. But you can tell some of these drivers that are taking this call, thinking about the back end of the race more than the front end, obviously. They're thinking big picture if you are on the old rubber here and trying to baby it to survive.
Yeah, no, you really have to pamper your stuff here. Just hold on to it as if your life depends on it, and don't beat it up too much. You know, we've already seen drivers just get a little bit too much out of their stuff in the early runs and pretty much doom themselves later on. And now as the runs start to get longer and longer and these stages get longer and longer, you're just going to see that kind of get exemplified. It's just going to grow, and you're going to see these drivers fall off more and more. That cliff is going to get taller and taller, and the fall off is going to hit even harder.
Yeah, that right now these drivers on the older tires are running 31.8. That's a second slower a lap right now. There is a chance they might actually lose a lap if they don't have the equalization point hit at the right time here too. So there is that concern you have to think about also here at Darlington for a couple of these drivers possibly. Right now though, the thought is simple. Just try and save tire, save tire, save tire.
Yeah, at this point, these drivers are probably holding that steering wheel with kit gloves, just the most delicate maneuvers that you can do here at Darlington. You can't go around this track at speed as if it's a Sunday night cruise, but whatever you can do to maintain pace and not just saw at that steering wheel like a madman, it'll help you out farther along. It may hurt for now. You're going to see those drivers get a little bit more sideways, look cooler driving around this racetrack, but smooth is fast, and smooth is going to help you out a whole lot later on once it comes time for being able to bolt on those tires. If you have to preserve the tires now, you really, really got to be careful. It's like walking on ice.
Yeah, it kind of is, absolutely. It's one of those tracks where it gets so tricky under the throttle when it comes to how these tires cause you to slide. Mind you, the track temp we haven't touched upon too much yet. It's 107. Pretty hot so far with the air temp at 75. The in-sim time is going to cause it to drop pretty quickly, though. You'd have to think it depends on how the energy bursts through the pavement here. Chris Berg, Alonso is cutting their way ahead in this battle box, just ahead of it, if you will. Yellow is old tires for reference now on your screen. That's how quickly they've lost 6 seconds. That only took them a grand total of about 9 laps. Now it's purple. Don't you like different colors, everybody?
Yeah, nice little rainbow. I like my colorful graphics, and it's also because I have the brain of a chimp. Side-by-side racing a little bit farther up the road, though. This is going to get spicy. This is Chris Carroll and Ty Marasco, and that's going to be Carroll jumping his way up into P5. So the battle's still going on out there on the racetrack. Certainly these drivers that took tires in that last stop, a little bit more down to go side-by-side, battle with each other, because they're not running on tires that are pretty much just made out of Play-Doh. You know, one little point that I do want to bring up, though, JP, talking about what you mentioned a few moments ago about the track temperatures, they've already gone down about 6 degrees from the drop of the green. We started this race off at about 113. It's now down to 107. You can see that fall-off start to go down there. Not as bad of a fall-off as the Phillies this season.
What are the Phillies at record-wise?
9 and 19. Don't remind me.
Hey, on the bright side, They're better than the Blue Jays, I think.
No, the Phils, we've got the worst record in Major League Baseball. I think the only teams that come even close to us are the Royals and the Mets. The Mets are better than us. That's my one goal. I don't want us to see like get into the playoffs. I'm not that hopeful. I just want us to beat the Mets at the end of this year. I can have a dream.
The last time I looked at the standings, the Blue Jays had, what, 3 wins in about 15 games? Apparently they're now 12 and 15. That's showcases how things can change in baseball, by the way. But, of course, they were not a stick and ball sport. We have steering wheels and tires, after all. Chris Carroll has taken his up to the top 5 into 4th now. Carroll slowly but surely marching that Ohio and Indiana roofing sponsor machine even more further and further to the order.
And I'm not sure. I feel mean saying this as we ride on board with Chris Carroll. Looking at that onboard shot, the little red circle in the O of Chevrolet. I'm not sure if that was meant to be caught there or not. See, I noticed stuff like that, and yet I don't even remember what I had for dinner last night or where I have my keys. There you can see that little red circle there. I feel bad for anybody who just noticed that themselves. I apologize if I ruined what was a very good paint scheme. I gotta say, I like the look of that there. One crushing epidemic that we have here in the world of racing is a strong lack of gold cars.
Why do you feel the color gold is frowned upon? Zimmerman has a little gold on his truck, nearly wrecked it. But hey, he's fighting hard with Kazi here, who has a lot of red and yellow on it.
Yeah, so we could say at the moment that the driver of that number 28 truck is seeing red. Zimmerman trying to get this move done for dear life. That was about as slick as 80 grit sandpaper. I apologize. But battling right now for lucky spot P13 on the road with some company right behind, some interested company at that. Ellswick, one of the drivers on those older tires. All these drivers running on the old tires right now. But he's still right there trying to apply some pressure. William Brunn, though, right behind. He's going to look to stick his nose into this battle here soon. I believe just going off the graphics, he has come down pit lane for tires, so that truck may turn into a rocket ship. But right now, again, having a look at these drivers up in front and how much they're sliding and think, how much do I want to try and throw caution to the wind to get past these guys that are clinging on for dear life?
I mean, it depends on what the feeling is for the drivers, right? Some want to throw caution to the wind, others want to see what sticks on the board. Others say, my middle name is Caution. That's why I ended up doing X, Y, and Z instead of lighting my house on fire. Zimmerman, his tires have been lit on fire much of this run. He is already pitting.
And an intriguing call there. I wonder if anybody else on that strategy will follow in suit. He was certainly really sideways, maybe starting to feel the burn and think, okay, maybe I'm going to try and do something different. It's the phrase of, you're not going to win by doing exactly what your rivals are doing, so may as well throw something at it. I think Ellswick may be filing into the pits himself. Yes, he is. The 51, next driver to call dibs on the pit lane. I like this call. I'll be honest, I really like it.
Look at this for the lead. Here comes Arthur. He's closed up the gap up to the back of Kilroe. Now where does he do it? You can see he's trying, but nothing doing yet. Just lost a lot of ground there in that sequence here, Ron. And right now, seems like he's got the pace, as we know. Problem is the clean air, and a lot of people are pitting. This has got to be to make sure you get to the end of the stage, in theory. You're only 19 laps on fuel here.
Yeah, no, I think they're seeing that tire wear get banned, thinking, you know what, I am not going to blow out a tire here. May as well just run it a little bit cautiously. Feel slightly less burn when it comes to the tires a little bit later on here, but still feel a bit of burn in this upcoming stint. I still like that call. I'll be honest, we'll have to see how that goes. It's me liking a strategy call. That usually means that's going to go about as sour as milk in the Nevada sun, as a battle once again maybe going to flare up for these top spots as they're feeling some pressure from that car, the number 28 of Zimmerman, of course, a lap down, so he's not going to affect that battle in terms of position, but he will affect it in terms of Mark Arthur potentially seeing that car behind and think, you know what, maybe now is the time to try and get this move done on Don Kilroe. I think he may have actually gotten overtaken. Now the gap's 0.6 of a second. Yes, he did.
Yes, indeed he has, as Zimmerman unlaps himself there. Mind you, looking at those who pit, by the way, as you would expect, a lot of them took Goodyear Eagles. Some of them their first set to the race, mind you. So they have that extra set to work with for the final stage, as see those stints, how they go. Most of the field, as you would expect in the 20s, outside of Roddy Lane, who had his issues off the restart.
Yeah, and just in that small little moment of those cars have already come down pit lane, just blowing these drivers' doors off. They're the quickest cars out there on the racetrack by some margin in terms of just general pace in equal circumstances. But because of that tire disadvantage, they are so slow out there. Now the 51 being and banging with the 12 of Mark Arthur, trying to get back on the lead lap here as Brian Dees comes into the pits from 9th here. That was a driver on the same call as your leaders, so this is rather odd.
Very much is right now as we go. Now, right now, 23 laps, a little bit more understandable. Remember, the stage number is 78. For those wanting to do the calculation, this would be about halfway to go. This would be about 25 to go, so this would make sense. Split it equal for what we have stint-wise. So it does make a lot of sense here. Nick Crawford, first start of the season, by the way, this season, he is right now trying to find a way to second, as Arthur has fallen off 2 seconds in 5 laps.
Yeah, so Mark Arthur feeling the pain. We know that car is quick, but right now it's like the wheels are bolted on sideways, the gas tank is full of milk, and the entire bed of this truck is full of sand. Will he be able to hold on to P3? Will he maybe file it into the pits after that call a little bit farther in the back? Only time will tell as we have a battle right now here. This is Chris Berg and Ty Morosco heading side by side into turn number 1 and 2. That's Berg jumping off that spot. Equal tires, equal situations for those trucks, but we're entering a different phase of this race here, JP. These drivers sensing the opportunity to maybe put some new rubber on it. This track continues to fall down temperature-wise, so I think that's maybe the reason why these drivers are sensing that now is the time.
Especially since you never know if anyone's going to be able to spin here. This seems like the type of race, even with the chaos we've seen earlier, with a lot of the contact, it might be a race where this trend's great. Because if anyone spins, there's no caution trigger below those dash white lines here at this track because of how paved it is. Kleinsmith now comes on in for his sake. So you kind of need to make the decision here. Now, some of the others that are on the older tires, their decision may be just about made here, because some of the drivers are at risk of losing a lap pretty soon, like Joseph Cossi. Justin Levine just caught a pit stop now to get himself on the fresh tires. So a lot of the drivers who are stretching in the purple are saying, I've got to come in, get those Goodyear Eagles, and get them on the truck.
So everybody who was on that old tire call has now filed into pit lane. I think that's the smart call, the wise call, the better call to make out there. You know, you can make it all the way through to the end of this with tires that are hanging on by the skin of their metaphorical teeth, but you're going to be feeling the burn out there in the pace department. You're going to see a driver blow your doors off. You're going to see like a oxen cart from like Yugoslavia in 1910 be able to blow your doors off.
Right now, as we start lap 58, thought process is definitely there to see where things go, how far the run goes is definitely going to be happening to be taken note of, because the farther we go in this run, the more we have in terms of a judgment number for a bit today. Now, some of the projections, though, that are provided through some software you can use, JRT, for example, started providing this for trucks in the session from when you're not driving, by the way. The estimate is 9 laps of fuel based on previous fuel burns in previous packages. So you're talking maybe up to lap 68 to 70 for much of this field.
I'm still looking at some of the battling going on right now. Everybody quite split in the other tire life that they have got outside of your top 10, top 11 for that matter, that are pretty uniform. Farther behind, though, drivers that are one lap down finding themselves with much better tires. As here we go, Chris Carroll breaking away and coming down pit lane. I was wondering if one of these top runners would come down pit lane to run an odd strategy call, and here it is, Carroll, now the latest come into the pits, followed by Dustin Ping.
Yeah, those drivers were doing pretty well so far tonight. Quiet night for Payne, a bit of a louder one, and then move up for the 99. Kilroe will keep on chugging along, though, as he tries to pass by Ronnie Lane's lapped machine. And let him on by with no issues this time. So, no issues this time. Meanwhile, Nick Crawford, somebody needs to tell him this is a stage race. He just asked on the radio, by the way, here, Ron, is there a second stage in this series? The entire radio lit up and said, yes, there is.
Yeah, I do commend the drivers for at least telling him. I know there's some leagues that I would cover where they would not tell you that. They would be open to withholding that information. So, you know, props where props are due. The drivers at least giving him the knowledge to say, yeah, there's more stages here. But he's currently holding on to third, so may not know about the format, but certainly knows how to wheel that truck around this place.
Yep, indeed. And right now, the rest of the drivers continue to wheel themselves forward. You see some of the differences, half a track, mind you, to some of those who pit. Right now, your lucky dog would be Chris Carroll, who just came out of pit road. Zimmerman and company well behind those on fresh tires. That's not a great sign. Well, if you're Carroll, it's a great sign. Now, I think he may have either taken no tires or two tires. That might be why he's got such an interval in terms of the distance. He had a 9-second pit stop. Kind of showcases, it can confirm no tires for the 99. That's why he's got the advantage. Going to be in trouble to unlap himself, though.
Yeah, no, that'd be a little bit tricky to do as he's skating around the track. But if he came down pit lane for fuel and fuel alone, either he underfueled it desperately on that previous stop, or nobody's able to make it through to that stage break with the gas that they have got. I mean, JP, we're not too far away from the end of this stage, so if we were seeing that, I'm sure the pit stops are coming up very soon, or we'd probably be able to see the fuel saving going on right now. Don Kilroe, again, his door's blown off by a lapped car. Now, is that a matter of the tires being old, or just him doing some fuel saving? Looks like he's still running up to normal form in that 41 truck, so I'm not sure what exactly the deal is going to be for gas as we get towards the end. It's certainly going to be enticing.
It's going to be very delectable, if you will, in terms of possibilities. Right now, Kilroe definitely has a little bit of distance he could play with, since there isn't the thought process of having to go past 78, mind you. Then everyone gets bundled up anyway. So, taking a look at Kyle Wellman. He's gone with the retro look tonight, and it's been quiet for Wellman.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about him too much at all in that number 42 truck. Just quietly settled into this race, settled in the pack. You know, one thing I will say about these drivers, they've been able to keep it smooth for the most part as Wellman. A little bit sideways there, having a saw at the wheel a bit off through turn number 1 and 2. We haven't seen too many major bits of disaster break out, and I think at the moment, only sitting at 2 retirements from this race. Well, really only 1 retirement, but the driver not taking the start. By Darlington standards, that is very, very good, as William Brunn, latest driver to come down pit lane, the 83.
Absolutely. Right now, you can just see how far they're willing to stretch it. Right now, you're looking in your 40. That's going to be very telling. If they get to say 45, Yes, it's going to be. Oh, hold on 1 second. Zimmerman here we got piled into by Kyle Willman in turns 3 and 4. No caution, we stay green.
Look at Zimmerman now again, shoot up and spat out by Ellswick, and now this is going to get really dicey in this 3-car pack. Ellswick, Zimmerman, and Wellman all packed together. Crawford dropping down. He's coming into the pits. Mark Arthur coming into pit lane as well, along with Dalton Kilrow. Everybody filing into the pit lane as Brent Zimmerman still all over the place.
Yeah, he's got to get this dealt with quick as 40 laps is the mark. Seems like you might have a fuel mileage race now on our hands here, because if that is the average fuel run here in this one, Ron, I'm nervous for the others because everybody else is going to have issues. This is the reason for the contact. Watch Wellman. Bonk, bonk, double B bonk.
Yeah, I think that would be, in correct technical terms, I think that would be a double doink as he headed his way off through turn number 3 and 4. Very lucky that he kept it out of the wall as Taylor Butcher Benjamin now into the pits along with Chris Berg and Tyler Morosco. So keeping an eye on these pit stops as Chris Carroll now trying to jump into that top spot right now. This is going to actually now Chris Carroll, now your race leader uncontested, as I was wondering exactly who that was. That was the 83 that he side by side with lap car. My apologies.
TBB may have just gotten penalty stats. Did get a penalty. The 10 will have to go and serve that under green. Keep in mind, there are 2 things you have to do. Stay under the orange cone before you get to the yellow cones and turn. And the speed limit is 45. Guess who ran 46 for sectors 1 through 3?
And that's how quickly iRacing will get you. That's so unfortunate for a truck that's been quick, been very, very quick. Outside of that alien abduction a couple of laps in, been a smooth night for the 10, but that is going to be a real gutting penalty, as that was big wall contact there behind. Harkins. Yeah. Looked like he just turned up straight into the wall there, heading down the backstretch. That was very odd.
Harkins just trying to chug along. Logan Wilson the same. Kind of curious, is there a clutch coast? No, this is just on raw pace. And I think this is not your yardstick for fuel, to say the least, for stage 3. Gonna be safe to make it on possibly near 1 stop. I think still stage 3 will see a ton of fuel save, but we're under 10 to go in the stage itself. Harkins does have to peel down and pit this time.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit befuddled by that wall contact that the 11 truck had, but filing into pit lane now. I wonder if it was just that momentum, that pendulum swing heading out of turn number 2 that eventually just sent him up into the fence there. But Logan Wilson still out there on track, running at full song, running at full speed. Now, though, files into the pits. Right as we were saying that, Logan Wilson, latest racer to peel off the track, come down pit lane. This will give the race lead off to Chris Carroll.
Off and away they go as a result here. So everyone else now sees this be the race lead. Carroll on old tires. Arthur is on old tires too, though. Doesn't really matter the difference there. So in other words, Arthur is faster on old tires. Hold on, we have a problem. Harkins came off pit road and has no throttle. And he is stopping. The Beaver is just stopped and towed.
Well, thankfully, on that apron, not going to bring out a yellow, but that is very odd there. Hardware failure striking at maybe the oddest and most disappointing time. That is probably the first time I've ever seen a full-on throttle failure. Let's take a look at this.
Yeah. Looks okay. Looks okay. Modulating. Then it dies. Sounds like it just dies on him, like his throttle broke.
Yeah, that was bizarre. At first, I was hearing the revs start to build there. I was wondering whether or not he was, got like bopped for speeding and just decided to call it there. That was odd. It's,
Here's an error point. Do you think do you know there was a little issue in iRacing sometimes? I say a little. Sometimes it doesn't fuel you up on fuel. I almost wonder if we got the very rare glitch that somehow only happens in NASCAR races, that some people just don't get the fuel put in the tank.
Yeah, so whether or not his fuel tank got the pinata treatment or what the deal was, it was full of Smarties instead. That's going to sting either way. There's a part of me that's thinking maybe it was some sort of hardware failure not surrounding his throttle pedal. Maybe his screen gave out and he just decided to putter it down onto the infield. But coming towards the end of the stage and things getting close up at the front.
Chris Carroll leads right now. Arthur is plateaued. Last time by, it was a 32-2 for Arthur. Carroll was a 32-1. One to go, stage one. Chris Carroll's first laps of the night are right now in the Pit Lizard Performance Machine, running this season with Blackhawk Motorsports on the team spread. Some of the drivers went into different units to separate themselves with the team standings. But Chris Carroll tonight, he's been able to roll his way slowly but surely into the conversation. No tires works for the stage as Chris Carroll, who wins stage two. Flight now waits the racetrack for Arthur, Kilrow, Crawford, Levine, Dees, Causey, Wellman, Ellswick, and Payne are in the top 10. As you can see, your drivers who have led laps outside of Wilson and Butcher Benjamin, along with Levine for 3 laps, are amongst your top few spots here. So, with that situation, by the way, Taylor Butcher Benjamin being pinned a lap down. Trevor Harmon, who has not fixed the truck, by the way, is your lucky dog. Oh, what's that sound going on? We are right now at the top of the hour. You know what that means? It's time to remind you of your favorite sponsor. It is Ohio and Indiana Roofing Company, a premier roofing contractor. They're a sister company to the Bruns Construction Enterprise, specializing in commercial and industrial roofing, and are committed to accommodating the unique needs of each client and offering creative solutions to meet those needs. They are a team of individuals who work for the same common goals: professionalism, quality, and service. Services offered include preventative maintenance, re-roof new construction, infrared scanner, green roof solutions, metal, retrofit, emergency repair services, and more. Visit oiroofing.com today for more information. Oh, don't hit the barrels. I thought they were about to plow into them the way they angled in that time. Chris Carroll just about scraped them all.
Yeah, we've had a smooth run throughout the night. I don't want to see a driver smack those sand barrels of doom and get sent off to the moon. But as we see the field piling down in pit lane, one driver that I will be keeping my eyes on once we get this race back up and rolling is that number 12 truck of Mark Arthur. In that last run of the race, JP, I think it's fair to say that that 12 truck really in the pace department just plateaued, if not start to sink off a teeny tiny bit. A driver that I had my eyes locked on heading into this really start to struggle. Let's see if that struggle bus continues to roll here in stage 2 as the driver's up on the jacks and down pit lane. Doesn't look like anybody's going for that odd call, at least up at the front.
So, Carroll, with that, will take a fresh set of tires here. Arthur, Crawford, Kilrow, Levine are now your top 5. Levine, I think, is going to be one of the wild cards here in the midst of this once again, because minimal starts this season. That driver who's 19 on paint, 3 in sim, is going to be one of the competitors, I think, that will be pouncing here, along with Joseph Causey, both of them working together in the Rams, ready to find a way to take the Raminators up to the point. Now, remember the math we just talked about with the fuel mileage, though, for what's going to happen here on? I think we may see heavy fuel save this stage, will we not? Because we're going to have 93 to go when we get the green flag. Right now, the max you can go is maybe, including the stop, double the math of 44, 88-ish.
know, heavy fuel saving in a NASCAR stage that's about 90 laps long. I feel like we've already seen enough of that today, but this is actually going to be exciting because it adds in a little element. I always talk about the matter of drivers juggling chainsaws in these races. Here at Darlington, not only are you having to worry about those track conditions, they are still quite brutal and will steadily change as time rolls along and we roll a little bit farther along in the evening, late afternoon, maybe into the night. I think we're going to be in the evening by the time that checkered flag falls. These drivers also have to juggle the strategy as well. Quick little look at those conditions. You have 4:30 nearly in the evening. 105 still the track temperature. Coolest we've had so far. That's still not a bed of roses either.
So we're coming up to the restart. Carroll in control over Arthur now. Arthur's led 28-9 for Carroll. Backing away, and Arthur didn't get the best of launches per se. Instead, it's going to be Nick Crawford up the inside of the 74, who jumps to second, the highest up today, and here comes Levine. Levine to the door. Levine squished down, had to lift.
Yeah, everybody's still froggy on this restart, trying to get some moves done. Your top pack somewhat single-filed out, although those two right at the tail end still trying everything in their power to not lose out on that spot that they're desperately clinging on to. That's Dees and Kilrow. Kilrow very fast throughout this race in that number 41 truck, just trying everything to jump up there. This thing's getting a little bit dicey as well for third Mark Arthur, who I thought had it made here in this race. Barely clinging onto a podium spot as here comes Levine.
Here we go to the inside. Levine able to slide on in front of Arthur. Parks it down on the inside, makes the move. Jumps himself up to the third spot here. Causey looking to do the same for fourth in the next moments or so. Now, we're just seeing how drivers get into the rhythm already. Coming up towards halfway as well. Fastest lap was set by Crawford just in the past moment in the 30.1s. That was 7 1,000ths quicker than Carroll's fastest lap he just set now too.
A lot left to be determined here in this race, and these drivers venturing off into the unknown, it feels like, in this stage. It's one of the things I like about this little stage format that we got here. As things roll along here, the stage lengths get longer and longer and longer. Always keeps these drivers on their toes. They haven't really known what is coming up next. It's always been some kind of curveball headed these drivers' way, whether curves up, down, left, right, down the middle, whatever it may be, backwards. Doesn't matter what the case is, these drivers have had to deal with it.
Yep, so far the difficulty has popped up for some of the drivers to charge ahead, and right now we're seeing that in particular. Some of the others just trying to get the long run together. Ellswick didn't look great in the first stage, now trying to get into a pattern in the second and / rather to the third stage. At this point, what do you think the 51's got to have learned after what happened in the opening stage and now has track position somewhat back for stage 3?
You know, I'm not exactly sure what he's thinking about as his biggest learned lesson so far here, but in terms of relevant experience in many different situations throughout this race, I think Caleb Ellswick has been through the ringer. We saw him running a little bit farther up at the front of the field like he is right now in 8th. We saw him a little bit earlier on as we were going through the strategic shenanigans throughout stage 2. We saw him involved in battle after battle, trying to make things work, just kind of involved in a bare-knuckle fist fight with some of the competition around him. I think if anybody has like a wide-ranging set of relevant experience so far here in this race, it is that 51 truck of Caleb Ellswick, and if you have that level of experience of a broader set of situations, it'll give you that extra sense of comfort as we go along throughout this final stage. So that 51 truck driver that I'm keeping an eye out for, not in terms of a race win, but for a real good run.
Yeah, I'm very much curious what's going to happen for some, but right now, Levine's making it clear he wants to go for second. That time, Crawford didn't give him the lift to let him on by in that lo-fi latte machine. Payne also trying to play defense on Ellswick for the 7th spot. And usually there is a bit of that etiquette, if you will, where a lot of people, with the way the nature of the track works, will lift off in especially 1 and 2's entry, especially when someone's at the door by the numbers about. In this case, some of these drivers really protecting very hard here. Levine going to have to chew up some of the tire here more than he probably wants to. Wants to get something done as Arthur gets the Darlington stripe.
Still keeping our eyes locked on this battle for second and third. Justin Levine and Nick Crawford. Levine on the inside off through turn number 3 and 4, and he's going to book his way through into second as a bounce off the wall there from Nick Crawford. We're getting farther along here, and those Darlington stripes are becoming more of a common sight to see these drivers catch up. Now this is going to be tough. This is going to be fascinating to see what's going to happen here. Nick Crawford, Mark Arthur, now pretty much right on top of each other with Joseph Causey. Got third wheeling in that battle, going to apply the pressure to the 12, trying to apply the pressure himself to the 74. This is going to get real fun.
Definitely will for some of these drivers, absolutely. And that's the goal of tonight. Looking to have some fun together. Causey. More place to poke. He's up 16 so far. Nearly got to Arthur's fender. Not a place to really go there on the exit per se, unless you're at the door already. And that time you had to reset.
And riding on board, you can hear it and you can see it. Look at that. Sawing at the steering wheel, small little kicks out of the back end. It's not those major snaps. It's just the small little tiny ones that just keep a driver on their toes, having to saw at the wheel, manage something throughout this. One thing that you could say about Darlington that gives it that character and flair that makes it one of the most beloved tracks on the NASCAR calendar, it wasn't built to any form of modern standard across every single category. The reason why one of the turns is tighter than the other is because a guy didn't want to sell a koi pond. That's the old school kind of nature of this place, and it comes out even with these highly tuned race cars. Contact there with Causey and Arthur heading into 1, and Arthur having to chase that car up the hill, avoids contact with the wall, avoids contact with the 8, but now he is chopped meat down the backstretch.
Obviously wanted to make the pass quickly there, thought he was going to get the common sense to go. In that case, Arthur looked like he was going to defend it. That led to the contact in part. Kilrow will now show the fender himself. Arthur's making it clear he doesn't want to give this any spots up at all, and will park it in front of the others to make sure he is able to hold on.
Yeah, we're at the point now where gamesmanship is starting to show up. These drivers just playing little tactics with their competition, positioning their car in the right way. They know this place, some in the case know it like the back of their hand. It's a small little just nuances in this race that make it a little bit hard to try and get a grips with. But now that these drivers are, I would say for the most part, settled in, as settled as you could be at a high-pressure race at Darlington. Drivers trying to get a good result here, but they are as familiar with this track as they ever have been. So you're now starting to see those little tactics begin to develop. When everybody's in a constant state of fight or flight, that's when you're going to see everybody just contending out as hard as they can. But now these racers can be a bit more calculated. They're not thinking in fear. They'll be able to actually think about every single move they do, think about where they can position their car. There's a little bit more of a game of tactics that go on here. We've gone from pretty much just a boxing match to like a game of chess.
Yeah, and right now this has become one of those very needed to be calculated types of races for the way things are going. You have to be smart. You want to win at Darlington after all. It's not one of those turn off your brain, turn the laps, go from there type of nights, in particular for a lot of these competitors. Right now, we're just watching around and seeing some of the others as they go. You mentioned Kilrow in particular. He's looking to try and reset again. Payne also in this pack. For reference, the pace for a majority of the drivers you see in this grouping right now, including this one as well, are running in the 1s and 2s, 31 1s and 2s. But everybody who's outside of that, which is Carroll and Levine, are upwards of a 10th or 2 quicker right now on average pace. So a small little buffer here and there. They started falling off just to make that point, the top 2, because Carroll's starting to fall off a little bit harder than I think he was expecting here. But that point being, that short to mid run was so good for the 99 and the 3 in particular after the 3 made the pass on some of these drivers. We've seen just how much they've been able to build a buffer over everybody else on track.
Yeah, when you have that advantage, you just have to grab a hold of that torch and run as fast as you possibly can. Some people may be able to catch up to you once you start running out of steam. And speaking of, that's a 59 stalling out big time all through turn number 1 and 2, hits the wall, and that's going to cause him to drop down. Kleinschmidt, huge wall contact there, bounced off of about 8 or 9 times, and Chris Berg able to jump in front. P10 for that driver of the 66 machine. So we can still continue to see these battles as Kilroy trying to get something done on Arthur.
Trying to figure out where he can make this pass because, again, Arthur's making it clear there's not going to be a give and take situation from him. He wants to fight. He's here to battle. You've got to pass him cleanly. And right now, Arthur's giving a little bit more squeezing here and there as well. That's going to make it more and more difficult for Kilroy to get the run. There's the left right there again. Had to get off the throttle because Arthur was running a touch bit lower to avoid contact with the wall. And yet again, has to reset.
Yeah, but every single time these drivers begin to raise the heat in a battle once more, you always talk about heat cycles in reference to tires, but you can talk about heat cycles in reference to these competitors as well. Whenever you have a battle that just heats up, cools down, not a lot changes, the level of frustration begins to brew underneath the helmet. I know as a driver myself, or even just talking about being out there on the road, if I keep getting caught up at red light after red light after red light, first few red lights I'm like, okay, just bad luck, it's all right. By the time I get stopped on my 10th red light in a row, I am ready to throw God into hell.
Yeah, at some point this give or take is going to go away. And obviously, the longer we go, the more that's going to be impacting strategy too. Logan Wilson just pit. He's only 23 laps into the run, though. So we have the window open, question mark? Don't know about this unless you two-stop it for sure here. Now, if you were to even it out, it's 33-ish on the runs. Now, taking the short run now, it would make sense to then go 35-ish. You're splitting it up here to the 70 to go mark. There is some options there, but I'm not sure about that call. He also took a 2-tire stop, I believe, and/or fuel only, because he also had a 10-second stop again.
Yeah, I'm thinking about how a driver will want to go through the rest of this race. Do you try and manage the pain now? Do you try and like make the pain worse now so you don't have to deal with as much pain later on? Do you try and evenly distribute it out? There's a lot of stuff that's going through these drivers' heads.
Kind of is. Turns the thought of, oh, there's Chris Berg being let go. I think he didn't realize there was no contact with Ellswick there because Ellswick was a little lower than I think he realized. There's that give and take we mentioned. There's Will Bruden also coming in. Bruden is into the pit lane, the 83 machine. He took 4 tires for his reference. So it is a window open here to try and take the shorter stop now and then take longer stints to get yourself to the race and take pit stops with 35 to go. Right now, Marasco, how far has he fallen from the front row? Well, it's been a while. 13th now is where he runs.
You know, I was talking about this a bit earlier on, just talking about Ellswick and how he had been through battle after battle, had to deal with a lot of different scenarios throughout this race. I think that really rings true in the case of this one truck of Marasco. He has been up and down the field like Otis Elevator. I don't think he's at a single point to breathe at all. And this gap that he has now between himself and Matthew Kleinschmidt, holding on to 11th right now in that 59 truck, probably the closest that he has gone to clean air right now.
Yeah, you see how some of the drivers are battling out, hearing that. Some of the drivers in clean air are not having fun. Look at how loose it's getting. Talk about Wilson. Here he is trying to get by drivers like Arthur yet again. Remember, Just had a stop, hits the seam, has to fight it, actually gets in front of Arthur.
You know, Darlington's always kind of renowned as a track that has 1.5 racing grooves, which is a shame because nobody starts a race with a half a car. Even with clean air, this track is still a real tough nut to crack, as you can see that contact there with the 76. We always talk about clean air and drivers having good handling race cars, good tires, whatever the deal may be. There's never a good handling race car at Darlington. There's only the least terrible.
Here we go. This is now a bit more to what we expect. 30 laps on the run for Zimmerman. He'll go for a slight undercut per se, as Dees, Munstow is trying to battle it out with Dustin Payne on the racetrack. How has Dustin Payne been on the season? Well, for Payne, he has so far been solid when we've seen him, but tonight he enters 30th for the points because it's only a 4th start of the season. Crawford is in for his stop with 64 to go. Too fast, and we have contact. Ellswick trying to hit the brake pedal. No speeding penalties.
They somehow got away with it, dancing with the devil there on pit entry. We already saw some drivers nearly end up in trouble on pit entry earlier on. I don't think that we're going to be seeing these drivers have an easier time later on here. As there, you can see it. A little bit of contact, a slight little touch, a slight little bump. They avoided the sand barrels of death.
Able to avoid having the race go from okay to not so good at all. Carroll, by the way, has been able to maintain this gap over Levine. In fact, he's gained a 10th or 2 over the past little bit. Chris Carroll seems to be in a groove tonight to try and become a multi-race winner. Arthur, for his sake, he's already pulling the gap back up over Kilroy, so the long run was definitely there for him. Track temp, by the way, for the most part, stayed about the same. It's at 104 at the moment.
You know, I think the biggest fall off that we had in terms of track temperature, pardon me, was in that first stage. Since then, it has plateaued just a bit. It's not going down anywhere near the rate that it was. 105 Fahrenheit is pretty much exactly what we started off this final stage with. Now, we are going to be running farther in the night, and once that sun starts to dip below the horizon, it's certainly going to get brought up more. As I saw a big moment there from Brian Zimmerman off through 1 and 2. Was very lucky to not only hold on to that number 28 truck, but even hold on to that spot.
Yeah, very lucky, absolutely, with that. Right now, see how much Arthur's picking up. Last time by, he was about a few hundreds quicker than Kazi. Kazi right now trying to run the inside line. Has been with teams like Frontline in the past, a couple other organizations. Has been also close with Levine, with Keegan Sabilo's race team that he's got on the sim side in recent years. Kazi just trying to make sure his truck doesn't have any major spark ups here, as Arthur provides the pressure a little bit quicker on exits at the moment.
And if anybody wants to just have a good end to this race, it is Mark Arthur. After a strong start where he was really the dominant man, we just haven't seen that same level of spark out of that 12 truck. Will he find it as we get towards the end? Are things finally going to fire off in the right way, and will he be able to make a charge? Only time will tell. I know one thing for sure, though. He finds himself in a very uncomfortable sandwich with the 83 lap car right behind, trying to apply some pressure as Arthur trying to apply the pressure himself over Joseph Causey in the number 8 machine. There you can see the 83 right there in tow, having a front row seat to this battle. That's William Brunn behind the wheel of that car. We saw him come into the pits not too terribly long ago. Try not to get his nose stuck into this.
Just trying to prevent major issues from popping up here, absolutely. Rudin just trying to stay at the bottom. Arthur again, not giving too much space. There goes the 83 on the reset. Dalton Kilroy is in. Chris Carroll is coming down. Causey's coming in. Causey is drifting and spinning into pit road entry. Aiden's around on the apex of the apron. There he goes on the turnaround, and there goes time, and the caution is out. Well, This changes everything. That's not the reason for the caution you've seen. It was the 10 who was your cause of caution. The 8, lucky not to be it. But minutes later, if not seconds, stats got involved.
Yeah, I wonder if that 8 truck actually made it into pit lane before that caution came out. It could have been borderline, so we'll have to actually see whether that was the case as we take a look at the 10. Heading off through turn number 1 and 2. All right, a big sideways snap midway through the turn and eventually just catches up with him. Maybe a bit of contact there as well. I'm not sure if that caused the initial slide or just finished him off.
So that makes it for sure one more stop to make the rest of the race, and really is a bad sign for those who had already pit. We only had 8 on the lead lap. Here's Ellswick. Got him as he was getting loose, then definitely made him loose, then definitely added to it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that was murder there. Maybe accessory would be the hardest charge I would go there.
Well, Kazi gets a lucky break. If that went green, might have been way far back in terms of the order. See, he's got to get going, though. He took the pit stop before everyone else. See him off and away, and I'm not sure how that's going to go for the pit sequence. As you can see, Mark Arthur is the first on the track for pit stops.
And hits his marks up on the jacks. He's going to go. Will it be a 2-tire stop for him? Is it going to be all 4? It will probably be all 4. Yes, it is. Everybody now filing down in pit lane. The 19 first out, though.
So that will in turn change up the field. Levine is the first out, as we've seen. Levine out first, followed by Arthur Deesberg. This is going to mean a lot of people waving around a much older rubber here too, by the way. First of those wave arounds will be Brian Zimmerman under this caution period, with Kleinsman, Ellswick, Bell, Ping, Kilrow all going to have to likely do the same thing here. And all of those lead lappers behind them are going to get the chance to start up front, but some of the others are going to have to hope for a caution flag or the money stop within lap 40.
All this going down with 55 laps left to go here. Now 54 left to go here at Darlington. You know, JP, we already had some questions in our head about how the end of this race was going to go from a strategy side of things. I feel like this just complicates the equation more. And any more of this, I think my one brain cell, his name's Gerald, by the way, I think Gerald's going to start to melt.
Yeah, definitely don't want to lose Gerald in terms of thoughts here. So,
a lot of paperwork involved.
Well, I think right now it's going to be for Levine and Arthur in particular. Huge opportunity to take advantage of all this. Right now, what the question will be, will they be able to hold back the fun of everybody else trying to pounce on them quickly for this race lead? Getting ready for the restart. Kazi just got an EOL penalty because of that pit sequence, by the way, regardless. And that came right as they were coming to the green. He's got a black flag.
Oh, that is very bizarre there. Was that an I would assume that would be an iRacing penalty.
No, it is not. That is a sim from race control. And they're wrecking with the old tires. Zimmerman's in the wall. Everyone else continues to scatter. They're still 3 wide with several on the apron into 3. 4 wide for a moment. Somehow, some way, we stay green for now. Zimmerman's in the wall again.
Oh, that 28 truck looks like the wheels are truly mounted on sideways. He's just clinging on for dear life at the moment. That penalty for Causey, that's going to gut his race in the 8. I was wondering what the deal was going to be with that pit entry and all the pit stops going on there under yellow. And unfortunately, just getting caught out there. You can see, oh my goodness me, there was a contact there. The 28 having that impact into the wall probably already KO'd the suspension on the right-hand side, and then things just snowballing from there.
Indeed, here and now, as a result, that chaos sees a lot of people lose 5 to 8 seconds to the race leaders as a result of that situation. Penalties cleared, by the way, for Causey after the EOL, so he was sent towards the tail anyhow with that situation. So the 8 will continue on. 13th is where it runs for now. Levine, though, with the clean air, going to have the chance to break away, but Arthur, on this short run at least, is already a half a tenth quicker as you take a look at some of the others.
Logan Wilson, despite the fact he nearly turned that wall into a crepe heading down there, he's still running well. I think Logan Wilson, another driver that we can add into that category of drivers who have been through the ringer so far here in this race. 125 laps down, nearly 50 left to go. And throughout this pack here, JP, of the 22 drivers that took the green flag, I would go out on a limb and say that very few of them have had a stress-free night.
Yeah, it's been kind of one of those races so far where to be able to survive, you had to think big picture, but also be able to just trust in amongst yourself that you're going to be able to hit the line. We've seen so many people tonight have mistakes pop up by breaking the rhythm. This is a very rhythmistic track. If you want to hit the pattern, you have to be able to get the expertise and practice in just to be able to get things done.
Yeah, we always talk about practice making perfect. Here at Darlington, even though it's a track that these drivers probably have seen lots of races out of, probably driven lots of races in, it's still one that will throw a curveball a driver's way. There are no Darlington experts. Even the drivers who won around this place the most probably can't tell you exactly how they were able to get those wins. They just say, hey, yeah, I just turn the steering wheel in the way that I do, and it somehow works. There's a certain kind of finesse that you have to use to try and get around here, but at the end of the day, it is just driver by driver, and more often than not, this place will keep you on your toes. Even for drivers who have done well here or feel comfortable, it'll just kick you in the teeth as soon as you start to feel settled down.
That conversation going to be something you eventually have to have long-term to think about just what you're going to do to improve. Remember, mind you, one of the conversation points here is going to be next time out is going to be, after all, New Atlanta with Echo Park under the lights. And that is going to only be 135 laps on the distance, keep in mind, for that race. So it's going to be a much shorter day where you go 20, then 40, then 75 to battle things out in transition race. Yet not every race is going to be a super speedway. But obviously, these are the types of races you want to score points in because it could go very wild and unpredictable as well in the next one.
Yeah, no, going from Darlington to New Atlanta is just a 1-2 punch of tracks that just absolutely despise tires. Less so than here at Darlington, but there's very few tracks that are still around today that hate tires about as much as Darlington does. Old Atlanta could give it a run for its money. I think in Atlanta in a couple of years could maybe do the same. Atlanta, that'll be a really fun race to look forward to for the next round of this championship. Heading off into the broken up month of May, where we talked about at the start of the show, JP, it's had a mental momentum where the drivers just have to stay with it, think, okay, we have a break coming up, may as well end off this little run of races with a good result. So I can go through that week break, not, just beating myself up over a mistake that was made that I can't even control in the past tense. So Atlanta going to be a real intriguing race for many reasons. Played track, lots of stuff to consider for that event, and also the little break coming up after that.
Yeah, with a couple of the holidays absolutely in the schedule. Chris Carroll, you have to think of what's going to be his game plan. Was the dominant force as well. You could say the same for drivers like Crawford, who, mind you, with the last pit stop, was able to top off a bit. 74, how would you grade his debut?
You know, outside of the fact that he wasn't aware that it was stage racing here in this series, he's been able to cope with it brilliantly. We saw some good pace there early. I think once a strategy got into form, hasn't really worked out well. But for a newcomer, you always expect a couple of teething problems joining the series, especially when strategy is so closely intertwined with the racing out there on the track. So overall, a fantastic debut for that driver of the number 74 car. Looking forward to seeing him get that strategy stuff nailed down and maybe contend for some W's before the season is done.
You see some communication pop up as well. Some of the drivers in the back of the grouping, like Payne, looking to make up for lost ground here. Payne fell back behind Crawford in all this, by the way. He's running the same pace as Crawford, but that pace is a tenth or two off everybody else. They're in the green light on fuel, though, this time. And for Payne, no, he was frustrated after his pit stop sequence previously. Now, he's just trying to test out where he can find clean air, you'd have to think. Look at how much he's balanced compared to the 74.
And you can see that fending out right behind. That was Kilrow and Kleinschmidt nearly wiping the both of themselves out, heading down the backstretch. These battles starting to get a little bit froggier out there on the racetrack, and I think I know why, JP. We're getting towards another round of stops. We're getting towards another round of worries for these drivers, and now they're probably feeling all right. For the first time here tonight, the track temperature is below 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That sight has been about as rare to our eyes as looking at a living dodo bird.
Absolutely, here as we go. Right now, Marasco giving mind as well, doing a good job after he was struggling last time we seen him in 13th with the stage. With the caution, gained track position he desperately needed to try and build up some points tonight. So far this season, Marasco down in 9th. He's missed a couple races. He's had a couple revisionals on the schedule. Gained 7 spots last race in the point standings, though, with his appearance there. But only has himself 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s all season.
Yeah, so maybe as we head off into the breaks, it could be just a little opportunity to say, okay, time out. Let's rethink things as we go throughout the rest of this campaign here in Blazing Pedals. Still a long way left to go before we get to the end of this season. So better time to just say, you know what, let's take it easy. Let's reevaluate things. When you're constantly running at full speed, I kind of mentioned this in reference just to tackling this race. Once these drivers got out of that stage of fight or flight, they're able to kind of think a bit more methodically about their approach in this race. Now that we're getting into the first kind of break for these drivers, the first couple of breaks for that matter, it will be a time just to reflect, think about, okay, what can I do? What can I change? What can I improve on? As we go throughout the rest of this campaign. May have been a rough start, but there's still a long way left to go here this season.
Let's take a look at the upcoming broadcast here tonight with 35 laps to go. We're running out of laps. Right now, Aspire Racing setting up for Tuesday, by the way. Same for Mars as they'll go off to Road America for the race Tuesday. The third race on Tuesday, OMSRL. That's at Nashville. All here on Green Flag TV. Then it's a mystery track as per usual for the Beer League. We'll find out eventually where they'll be racing for their very wild, a very exotic schedule, if you will. Then on Thursday, the Speed Cup Series is back in full swing. We'll see that once again at 9:15 Eastern Time, followed by Sim Race Association also on Saturday. They'll be at Kansas, all part of a busy schedule of races coming up here on Green Flag. So your thoughts on the schedule of races coming up here, Ron, as interesting combinations. There is not one of those tracks that's the same.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Beer League. I got the opportunity to do my first Beer League broadcast of the season, running Porsche Cup cars. It was at Fuji in the rain. Nighttime racing at Fuji as well. It was completely pitch black. Nobody could see what they were doing. It was a wild night of racing action. I heard through the grapevine that we're going to be running at the Slinger Speedway Figure 8, so that's going to be real fun.
I think you gave the secret away.
I just want to say, I wish. Yeah, there's one series that I advocated for them to run at the Slinger Figure 8 for years. Then they finally did for a Week 13 race, and I participated in it. It was in Formula V's. It was just as glorious as you'd expect. As at 28, a rolling roadblock heading down that back straightaway, and that's going to panic the 99 down the pit lane.
Gonna take the stop now. Mind you, so far this run already 24 laps. It is an understandable time to try it. He had to try a short pit to see if he can gain some time on the Levine and Company. A few others are coming in. Crawford's in. Already Wilson came down as well. So we are in the window. Kleinsmith will also join in. That in theory might see Levine and Company coming pretty soon. Let's find out how Carroll plays this. This likely either the last or penultimate tire sets for a vast majority of the field, and as we expect, Levine is in this time.
Yeah, pit stop pandemonium here right at the end. 30 laps left to go. This will be enough for these drivers to bring it through, bring it home. And for the case of the one right now stuck behind that 28, this is a real nerve-wracking situation. That 28, I said that the wheels were bolted on sideways and that the car was full of milk. Right now, that 28 truck, I don't know what the deal has been. We saw that wall contact there, but ever since then, the pace has sunk off even more as the 12, very flirtatious with that single yellow line on pit entry. I think they may have gone away with it. I was worried about that and worried about that pit attenuator. I think there's a black hole in the middle of that, JP. These drivers have just been gravitating towards that every single time they come down pit lane, green or yellow.
Yeah, a few of these drivers have really tested themselves on how well they're able to exit. See some of the other battles like Marasco. He's going to get squished up a little bit. This is for position with Wellman. Wellman all of a sudden making some late stage streaks through the field. His 42 already up 15 from the qualifying spot now, but it's mostly coming this third stage all of a sudden.
Yeah, drivers looking to peak at the right time. Logan Wilson just set the fast lap of the race there, so the newcomer really impressing on debut is the one of Marasco filing his way down onto the apron into pit lane. He's able to hit his marks there every single time. I don't know what it is. I think the drivers are just trying to give us a panic attack here in the booth.
Yeah, some of these drivers definitely making themselves a little bit more, you know, awake per se. Wellman, trouble, back straight away. Caution flag is out. This changes the field again. And we had 8 on the lead lap. Chris Berg is your leader.
It's another curveball. It is another curveball. We're hearing that Marasco will probably exit out with the lead. He was able to exit out of the pits before that pace car came out, so this is going to work out fantastically in the case of that one truck who's been mired in just constant battling. Gotta wonder what he's going to be able to do now that he has the opportunity to stretch his legs.
Yeah, this is now to where, what do you do? Well, part of that's simple. That gets you to the end on gas. But the other part is, we know Marasco is going to cycle to the front here as the last truck on the lead lap. Everybody else is in such a difficult spot now, including those having to take the wave. Levine, Carroll, a lot of others. Hearing Marasco didn't actually stop in his stall, so scratch that point.
Yeah, so good call either way, avoiding going one lap down, but you know, we can take that, put through a shredder, and then put that shredder directly into a wood chipper. Here the field comes down pit lane. Chris Berg leading them in that 66 truck in a race that's seen so many twists and turns. Just another one for us here in the booth and for these drivers out there on the track. 25 laps left to go. I think we'll probably be closer to the 20 lap left to go mark when we get this race restarted here, JP. And with that prospect of a restart right towards the end, I am worried about what's going to go on out there, as I'm completely ignoring that SpongeBob helmet that's going to send me back into therapy that I saw there for one of the drivers.
Yes, indeed. So you see TBB getting some damage repairs done after his caution situation. Chris Berg, big opportunity for him. He's another one of the drivers for Blackhawk, which will help the team standings. Haven't really talked about him up at the front on much of the year. He has finished in the top 5 once. That was a 3rd place at Dover, by the way. Outside of that, he's gravitated 9th to 14th when he stayed out of trouble. Look at the schedule coming up, too, with the different winners we've seen in recent weeks. Well, I think that's actually a different series. We apologize for that there, but Chris Berg, at least... Well, on that note, we're getting set for the restart. What do you do here if you're Chris? Chance for your first win if you're able to hold off the crowd, and Kill Row is one of them.
Run. That would probably be my advice. Grab that race lead and just try and run away with it. Do whatever you can. That is just the only thing that he can do at this point. Don't lay back. All gas, no brakes, shake and bake, do for Dale. Every single phrase that a driver is going to have to think about. For Chris Berg, he senses that opportunity, and he's going to have to try and grab onto it as the field's still looking to get packed up behind this pace car. Would not be shocked if the other restart maybe gets delayed here with only a few cars left right there behind the pace car. But either way, doesn't change the strategy for Chris Berg. Run for dear life.
Run away if you can. Coming up to the restart. Chris Berg, Brian Dees, Dalton Kirill, Dustin Payne, your top 4. Green flag is out. Less than 23 to go now, and it's Berg off and away. Look at Kilrow, he's already up to 2nd. Kilrow looks like he's hungry.
And he's got his fork in hand, knife in another, and he's going to look to try and feast. He's close there, heading down into 3 and 4. You can see just about a single truck length between these two. And what are you going to do if you're Chris Berg at this point? It is fear setting in. Kilrow down the inside.
Here we go. Kilrow back to the front. He's led 36 laps already. He leads some more now. It's the 41 in front, coming at 22 to go.
Yeah, now Chris Berg just clinging on for 2nd. It'd still be a good run for him here. And he's feeling some company with the car right up in front. Not a lot of company behind, though. 4-pack of trucks as they head their way off through turn number 3 and 4. Just stalling themselves at Dustin Ping, Ellswick, Dees, Marasco, all involved in that little squabble. That's just allowing your top 2 to start to drive away, but they still have enough time there to start to feel some pressure. Dustin Ping, your current 3rd place runner, maybe got to try and reel in Berg soon.
Yeah, you see how drivers like Wellman, at least with that caution, trying to recover back from what was a disastrous sequence for them. Oh, some disastrous sequences there with Berg. Nearly had a spin around. As a result of that, it's going to be Ping trying to go on the attack. New fastest lap was Ping previously, right before the contact.
Oh, let's look at them fending at 3 wide, a little bit farther behind. These drivers are not lifting off at all. There we go. That's Justin Levine along with Kyle Wellman. And I believe that's Logan Wilson there on the high side, sideways. That is close quarter stuff. Nearly a catastrophe heading down the start-finish straightaway. He avoids the wall, avoids his competition. He had to saw at that wheel with the hands of a ninja to keep it going in a straight line. He should probably go out and buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah, some of these drivers definitely at this point testing their gambling addictions here. Right there, contact mid-corner. Nearly causes a crash. Levine is lucky. We have a crash anyway. It's in turn 4. We're back under caution. Kleinsman involved. Wilson also collected. We're back under yellow.
Yeah, and the wild night for Logan Wilson continues. It's off into 3 and 4. Maybe one of the first times that we've seen 3 and 4 actually be the true choke point for this field. We've seen a couple of bits of drama through there, but for the most part, it's been turn 1 and 2 that has been the source of trouble, as that was the contact that sent him around. Drivers piling in. I think the 12 got a pretty significant tap of that car there. Mark Arthur may have damage on that machine, and Chris Carroll was the other driver that initially started it off. We're hearing a meatball flag for Mark Arthur. It was just that awkward kind of side smack, like a side slap hit. We'll be able to take a look at this from the aerial view. The chopper cam heading off through 3 and 4. There you can see smoke in the air, contact into the wall. He's going to go. Certainly the wall tap kind of sent him over the edge in terms of that wall smack, giving him a meatball. But even that contact before that may have been able to rip a wheel off before he even ended up in the fence.
Let's take a look at Algarve. What's going on with Motor City? Remember, we talked about that schedule previously. Right now, they still have 51 minutes to go. And right now, they're looking pretty steady in terms of how the packs are sorted out. As you can see, each of the leads is a 1+ second advantage.
Yeah, that is a stunner of a racetrack there. Portimao, as I prefer to call it, because Algarve, every single time I read that out in a read on the air, I always think that it's agave. Don't ask me why. I've the brain the size of a popcorn kernel. Don't ask. But it is an absolutely amazing racetrack. In terms of the elevation change through there as well, stunning. It was a host of 2 Formula One Grand Prix between 2020 and 2021, the COVID-affected years. It's going to be returning to the F1 calendar starting next year, and potentially may return a little bit earlier on than that, considering some of the races that have been canceled through to this point. But switching our attention back into this race here at Darlington, JP, coming up into the final 15 laps of this race here soon, and another reset for these drivers to contend with.
They're a little bit of a difficult sequence coming up with Kilrow up in front. I'm very curious what's going to happen with those waiver on drivers that just took the tire sets, though, how well they're going to fly up here. Others, though, are not in a spot where they even can take them now. Several of the waiver rounds, like Levine and a couple others, did not have a tire set in the bank. So with 15 to go, they're on the back foot for any chances to come to the field.
You know, I think for this whole field, the universal feeling is knowing that whatever way that they have set their bed, they've got to lie in it now. Whether they're going to have a comfortable, fantastic 8 hours of sleep, or whether it's just going to be a true struggle. They'll have a night where they're like not fully awake, but not fully asleep either. It's not like sleep paralysis, but a little bit worse than that, where like you know of everything going on, but time's like passing by both very slowly and very quickly at the same time. Either it's not going to be a comfortable night for some, not going to be a comfortable end for some, could be for others. Let's find out.
Here we go, 15 laps to go. Kilrow ready to launch. We're off and away with a good start from the 41. Ellswick got a better launch too, but no place for Ellswick to take it. Berg becomes a brick wall. It's Ellswick to third, Payne with his damage in fourth.
And for Don Kilrow at this point, it's exactly the same sort of strategy that Berg had to try and apply. Run for your life. Berg, though, feeling the pressure from Ellswick as he tries to apply the pressure to Kilrow. Side by side here is Justin Levine battling hard with Wellman. A little bit of blinking going on out there on the racetrack. 3 wide racing directly behind them, side by side, right up in front. That's Morosco on the 181 of Dustin Ping starting to squabble.
Yep, seeing that right now with how things are bundled together. 3 trucks under a blanket, a few drivers stacking up back there behind D's like Carroll and company. But Ellswick is in second. Ellswick was fading earlier. Carroll, he's trying to hold back the drivers, some of those who were the wave around drivers, including himself. Kleinsmith right on behind. Meanwhile, Levine, doesn't matter the older rubber, he's still going to try and pounce with it.
And this top 3 just gone from the rest of the field. 13 laps left to go. Really make that 12.5. Kilrow, Ellswick, and Berg. I think Berg is pretty much just going to have to settle to have a fantastic view of this. Going to be entertaining for him. He still may grab a podium when it's all done here in this race, but it's going to be a fight between Don Kilrow on the 41 and Caleb Ellswick in that 51. You know how I said that Caleb Ellswick had so much experience throughout this race in various situations that he was probably going to be feeling the most comfortable out of the whole field come time for the end? Well, that may come back to help him. holding on to second. He knows how to battle. He knows how to scrape and claw. He knows how to be in the dirty air, clean air. He's got a taste of pretty much every single thing that the appetizer sampler here at Darlington, and now it's time to have the main course.
It's time to figure this out quickly. Ellswick only has 11 laps to find a way, and he's hitting the wall. There goes his momentum. There goes the chances a bit there. Ellswick with the contact of the wall.
Yes, that's going to help Kilrow just build a small little bit of margin. Kilrow at this time, pardon the pun, he's going to try and kill some time at the moment here. Just wants to hold on to it for as long as he can, get towards the end. And if you get to a certain point, it'll just be time running out for Ellswick, and he knows that. So those two going to try and play the games as well as they can just to give themselves the best shot at glory. Berg and Morosco starting a battle. The battle's still going on throughout the field. Drivers not giving up, just trying to get any sort of good spot they can. This is Chris Carroll, who I think had things gone a little bit differently here in this race. We've had a very good shot at the win. Contact there out of 4. He's just barely clinging on to his spot inside the top 10, looking for 8th.
Looking for any place to go. You can see Carroll able to slip by, gets clear. Now the 74 comes down. Crawford nearly held on the fender. Kleinsmith nearly made contact for good measure behind. Under 10 laps to go from Darlington for Blazing Pedals. It's been a chaotic race throughout parts of the night. But right now it's Kilrow trying to hold back Ellswick. Ellswick trying to somehow, some way, build up a run after having struggles earlier. The other pack, by the way, has Kleinsmith defending and now in front of Crawford with a move on the outside.
A little bit of sideways moment there for Dustin Ping as he headed his way out of turn number 2. Turn 2's always been the trouble spot here at Darlington, at least in this race. Drivers have been sideways, slideways through there more often than not, especially on exit. That inside safer barrier visited more often than other towns in the entirety of South Carolina, for that matter. Looking now at the battles, though, this pack behind really getting stacked up by that car of Ping. Mega sideways snap through 1 and 2, stacking up there. Carroll having a check up, more checking up there. Look at the dents in the back end of that car. Now Brian Dees smelling blow in the water, gonna look to get the move done, gets it done on Carroll, looking for it on Ping. Side by side, that 81, just a rolling roadblock there. I don't like this pack, JP, I'll be honest.
Carroll gets himself by after losing a spot from that. Ping not backing off. Crawford tries to pass. Now Ping does have to lift. That opens up the door for Kleinsmith. That damage really starting to give way to all these spots, coming up 5 laps to go. And right now Ping, at this point, he is cruising down the order. Carroll, by the way, trying to figure out a way to get back up to 7th at least late. Has the pressure from behind. That's going to be Nick Crawford again, looking to rebuild. Up in front, Levine on the outside. This is with Wellman. They're door to door. Contact on the wall, Levine. Justin Levine couldn't get the clearance he needed from the outside. Now has to set back up Wellman as Wellman lets him go instead.
Yeah, I think Wellman realized, you know what, I'm having a fight more about keeping this car on the road than I am about holding on to P5. I'll let you have that spot. I don't want you to have a front row seat of me having a trouser accident. Kilrow, though, leading by 0.7 of a second with 4 laps left to go here at Darlington. I was saying that he was maybe killing for time, and it's worked out well. With the amount of time left to go here in this race and the amount of time between your top 2, I think this may be Kilrow's for the taking. He just has to hold on for dear life and hope to God something doesn't go on behind to bring out another yellow.
That's got to be the hope here. Ronnie Lane out of the race. He's done. Had a penalty on the previous restart. Now, 3 to go. Right now, Kilrow running away. Berg is providing pressure for second, actually. Berg, all over the rear end, has to lift this time. To look to reset, coming to 2 to go.
Ellswick looking to cling on for second for dear life. Berg, he's really come to his own. I was expecting him to just, drop off a cliff, but he's been able to hold his own quite well. Now, one truck, too, talked about him having another wild run throughout this race. One thing that he could say about the entirety of your top five at the end of this race here, JP, is that all of them have had just pretty much everything thrown at them here. Maybe the reason why they're weathering the storm the best, they've been able to weather the storm the best. They're about to take the white flag, holding on to some of the premier spots out there on circuit.
Coming up to the white flag this time by final time around, it's Dalton Kilroe who leads the field. Kilroe in control with a 2.5 advantage, looking to get it done again tonight. For Dalton Kilroe, he's been picking up momentum as of late, to say the least. He won at Phoenix after all last time out. Ran in the top 5 most of that day. He's ran up in the front a majority of this day to a Darlington. And this will keep up a streak of what will now be 6 straight races in the top 10. It's Dalton Kilroe with the win. Second win of the season for Dalton Kilroe. Caleb Ellswick in second, his highest run of the year. Same for Berg in the top 3.
Yeah, what a fight back there from Kilroe in a wild race that had twists and turns pretty much from the drop of the green through to the checkered. These drivers didn't really know what to expect, what would lie ahead. But in all of that, the 41 able to weather the storm, and he was quick all night long. It wasn't just a matter of luck, although luck may have helped him out on the strategy side of things. It was able to be the quickest car out there on the road, make it work out well. Everybody giving him his congratulations, back-to-back wins now. What a run in this springtime for Kilroe.
So it's Dalton Kilroe who again gets it done today in race number 8, the 2026 campaign for Blazing Pedals. Back-to-back on the schedule. Take a trip tonight to Victory Lane, and post-race interviews brought to you by Flying Pig Tavern. But as he continues to blister the tires on down, keep in mind, he was able to pick up this win by more than 2 seconds tonight. Let's take a look at those unofficial race results. Ellswick is the one in second. He was about a 10th ahead of Berg. Ty Marasco, he was up and down the order all night, finishes in 4th. Levine, after not qualifying, went up 15. He ends up 5th on older rubber. Kyle Wellman finishes 6th with Dees, Carroll, Crawford, and Kleinsmith, all a part of your top 10.
Then looking through the rest of the pack, Joseph Causey ends up in 11th. Nice fight back there after the penalty late. Dustin Ping is in 12th. Brian Zimmerman in lucky spot P13 in front of Logan Wilson in 14th place. TBB ends up in 15th place in front of William Brunn in 16th. Bill Harkins ends up in P17. Trevor Harmon in 18th place. Ronnie Lane, who fell out of this race late, ends up in 19th in front of Mark Arthur, who I thought was maybe in it to win it. Unfortunately, falling anvils coming down on him. Larry Bell in 21st, Mike Massengill in 22nd, with Thomas Freitas, who did not take the start of rounding out the drivers classified at the end of this race here in Blazing Pedals. A race that really had it all, from strategy and brilliant racing to a little bit of shenanigans and some fun moments as well. That was a very well-rounded race here at Darlington tonight.
Celebration on for Dalton Kilroe. We wait in here to see what the drivers have to say for post-race discussions. I'd like to remind you, tonight's post-race discussions are brought to you by Flying Pig Tavern, a small-town local tavern located in Fairborn, Ohio. They offer made-to-order pizza as well as some specialty pizza. They have special events every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday as well. So, by the way, we're at the top of the hour. We're just waiting for the drivers to populate. Good time to mention that this series also brought to you by Ohio and Indiana Roofing, a premier roofing contractor. Sister company to the Bruns Construction Enterprise, specializing in commercial and industrial roofing. They're also committed to accommodating the unique needs of each client and offering creative solutions to meet those needs. They also have a team of individuals who work for the same common goals of professionalism, quality, and service. Services offered include preventative maintenance, re-roof new construction, infrared scanner, green roof solutions, metal, retrofit, emergency repair services, and more. Please visit oliroofing.com for more information. Still waiting for your race winner to populate in terms of those waiting alongside for tonight. But these drivers will now get themselves into their Flying Pig Tavern post-race discussions. Third through first will be the way we go tonight. Still waiting for Kilrow out of the truck. Chris Berg, though, it's an third place run, his second of the season. Last one was at Dover. Again, could argue this was a stronger run than that. Able to come away with the top three, was in contention for the win here. Chris, how do you feel about the podium?
I feel pretty happy. I'm a little disappointed myself on those last couple of restarts. I just got too loose with them packing some air and they got by. But I mean, I'll take a third place all day long at one of my favorite tracks.
How tricky was Darlington in general with the truck here this evening to be able to get the setup down and get yourself into a decent rhythm here tonight on tires?
It took a little bit of time. Like, I was way better on the long run. I've never really been good on the short run, kind of anywhere. I like the long runs. And it was different, too, because 3 and 4, usually we're up against the wall, and that's super fun. It was kind of, tucked along the bottom was the fastest way around. And so, I mean, it was tough to pass. It always is, but it was a hell of a race, pretty clean throughout. We had a couple cautions, but it was a fun race for sure. And to save tires and race on old tires, it was a lot of fun.
So with that in mind, get yourself a solid points day once again today. How do you feel about Echo Park next time, though?
Oh, that's anyone's game. It's going to be fun. I mean, they always are, but just hope to be there at the end and put myself in position for another good points day and hopefully a win.
Anyone you want to give a shout out to tonight?
Want to give a shout out to the whole Blackhawk Motorsports team. They've been a lot of help, and just looking forward to the next race, and hopefully we all can go from there.
Congratulations on the run here tonight.
Thank you.
Chris Berg gets himself third this evening. A surprising run with the way Ellswick dropped back early. Caleb Ellswick finds speed late, gets second to speak with Ron.
Yeah, Caleb, welcome into the booth, man. It was a wild night for you. I said that you're up and down the field like Otis Elevator Road. You're able to get P2 at the end of it here. How was it out there?
That's just kind of how the season's been. It seems like I've been caught up in everybody's mess every week. I've had speed and just don't get the finishes. But no, I mean, it was okay race. I'm not a big fan of Darlington, so I knew I was going to struggle. I got on the apron there at the start. Surprised myself with the qualifying rolling, but I got on the apron a little bit on the start there and just kept it on the bottom. So I really had to fight myself back through from the start, but just happy to finish the race for once.
Now, one thing that I was going to ask you, it was something that I mentioned throughout the broadcast, how finding yourself involved in very intense battles in the early stages maybe helped you a little bit later on to find yourself in that battle towards the end. Would you say that was true from your perspective behind the wheel?
You could probably say that. I think a lot of it was I had really good run speed for the first probably 15, 20 laps of a run. And then after that, I kind of fell off. And then there was a lot of different tire runs and stuff like that. So people were able to, a lot of trucks, you could tell had a lot better long run speed than I did. So I was just trying to, fight for whatever I could. But, I've always struggled with keeping the right front on here at Darlington. So, I knew I was going to have to battle hard to keep the positions I could. So, yeah, I would say at the beginning of these runs, I was fighting hard because, I was trying to, knowing I couldn't keep the right front under it or the right rear in this case tonight, that, the farther I could get through the pack, the least amount of spots I would lose at the long run at the end.
Yeah, but still a good run for you. P2 at the end of this race. What are your thoughts heading to the new Atlanta in 1 week's time?
I mean, it's any super speedway at this point is a crapshoot. So, it's just, you're going to treat it like Daytona, Talladega, that kind of deal. It's just going to determine on how aggressive everybody is and who's willing to ride around and just, kind of keep ourselves, calm. I think with the no fast repair, I think some of that's going to help a lot, but I think there is going to be probably a big one or something around that'll shake up the race. But, if it can get green flag and you can use your teammates to use a little bit of strategy and kind of break away, it'd be the best thing. But with Atlanta, in these trucks, you're probably going to be full throttle all the way around. So it's going to be a lot of, Talladega, Daytona style racing where it's just going to be see who can sit on the high line and pinch off the bottom line to keep your track position.
Yeah, a little bit of luck coming into the fold next time out. Hopefully you have your lucky rabbit's foot. But before we let you go, man, we'll give you the floor to give any thank yous or shout outs for getting you here.
Yeah, as always, thanks to good Lord above for letting us do this. If it wasn't for him, it wouldn't be able to do this. Thanks to the team, IT and Out Esports Group. A couple of them didn't get to run tonight, but just kind of get more familiar with these trucks and kind of gain our grounds here with this league, and hopefully we can continue to move on this momentum here and move forward to the next few weeks. I know the rest of the team had a little bit of rough of a run there, but just all in all, just happy to be here and had fun doing it, and hopefully we can continue this momentum.
And happy to have you here in the booth, man. We'll see you next time out when the series rocks up to Atlanta.
Appreciate it.
I'll pass it off to you, JP.
So Ellswick gets himself into second. Dalton Carroll, back-to-back race winner here tonight. Dalton, how does it feel to go back to victory lane, this time at Darlington?
Well, considering when the first round of green flag pit stops in that last stage caution came out, and that put me behind the 8 ball, to even have been in the top 5, I would have been happy, but cautions giveth and cautions taketh, so I will take what I can get. And just glad it worked out for me tonight.
So talk us through what was going in your mind with all the chaos and the strategies here this evening. Obviously the cautions going your way, but what was going in your mind as the cautions came right in the midst of pit cycles?
Honestly, I was just trying to make sure I didn't lose too much time to the guys around me. And that's why I pit when I did that first time, and that shows exactly why I don't normally ever short pit, because as soon as I did, boom, caution on the racetrack. So I was just trying to minimize the damage from that point, and then just got lucky another caution came out.
So on that note, how do you feel about Echo Park next time?
Is it the new Atlanta or is it the old Atlanta?
The new Atlanta.
The old Atlanta.
New Atlanta.
Oh, no.
It's only 135 laps.
Yeah, but 135 laps of dog doo-doo is still dog doo-doo. So, whether I want to deal with that or not, we'll figure that out. But, we'll see what happens. I normally try to take it easy during some of these plate races, and hopefully we don't have anybody trying to play hero blocks on lap 30.
Any shout-outs you'd like to give here tonight?
Got to thank Orman Barbaco, Team Watson Racing Setups. Got to thank Ohio and Indiana Roofing, you guys for doing the broadcast for us. Got to thank Shortstop Pizza and everybody at BPL for putting the league on and making the racing out here what it is.
Congrats on the run here tonight. Congratulations on the victory.
Thank you.
Dalton Kilroe gets the job done tonight. Thank the top 3 for Speak Plus during post-race coverage here on Green Flag TV. Your final thoughts on tonight as this evening comes to a close run with a back-to-back race winner, and in turn, a lot of questions for this track next week.
Overall, a fantastic night of racing here at Darlington, but Atlanta, I refuse to call it Echo Park. I'm sorry. Echo Park can pay me to call it Echo Park. But Atlanta next time out, we're going from one track that's tough on the tires, but a little bit more driver dependent, to another track that's tough on tires that is also a bit of luck involved. I said that everybody has to break out their lucky rabbit's foot. We'll have to see if anybody walks under a ladder, pets a black cat, insert superstition here. But that is going to be a wild one to get the month of May up and rolling.
And we'll see that next time out here on Green Flag TV. But it's time to say goodbye. For my co-announcer tonight, Ron Mont, that's Anolis, our producer, just Prince saying so long. And stay tuned, because after this one, we're going to Motor City Racing. They're in their home stretch. Let's head over to the Motor City Racing action now.